Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Biola Alabi.
Welcome back. I'm Tundun Abiola. Our next guest, Ada Osomonika, is a mind and health coach, public health expert, author, behavioral counselor, speaker, trainer, and wellness and communication specialist. Her articles and coaching sessions have helped many people overcome the challenges they face and move forward to be the best versions of themselves. With over 2 decades of experience in the health and financial industry, Ada has worked on and ran several health programs with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, United States Agency for International Development, National Program for Immunization, Federal Ministry of Health, to name a few. Ada is a co-founder of Maidkai Health, a health consultancy dedicated to providing health solutions and interventions in Africa and healthy living and psychological support services for both corporate and private individuals. She shall be telling us more about depression and its toll on a growing number of Nigerians and the need for mental health literacy. Welcome to the morning show, Ada.
Hi.
It's great to have you back.
It's good to have you back.
Yes, I'm glad to be back.
And it's good to have you back at this critical time. I mean, we've just finished talking about the elections. We've finished talking about the fact that every minute 4 people are slipping into extreme poverty in Nigeria. Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. All these things are enough to cause depression.
Yes, they are. And they are actually even causing depression. So
tell us about actually the state of depression in Nigeria today.
Right now, the state of depression is worse because there's social media. There's more information out there. People are beginning. Typical example, we have when suicide happens, it causes what you call the weather effect, meaning if a person kills him or herself, and I get to hear about it, or I see it, it's like somebody who I respect, maybe like maybe a celebrity of some sort, It kind of like gives other people who are going through the same, struggling with the same thoughts, the silent permission to take their lives as well. It's just like the way if your story inspires me, like you've fought a battle and you've won, I get inspired. If I'm going through that same struggle, to come out and beat it. But if I'm struggling with suicidal thoughts because I don't have enough money, everything is going wrong, there's nothing, good in my life, and I cannot see a better future, I'm going to go to a hotel, take sniper, which seems to be the latest thing happening now, and then drink and kill myself.
What's
unfortunately.
sniper?
Oh,
it's an insecticide.
It's an insecticide now that where we have reports that people have, gone, taken bottles of sniper and, killed themselves.
But in your book, Drowning, you highlight that even though depression is associated with feelings of failure, successful people can suffer from depression as well.
Yes, because depression is not just it's not just attached to because you're having problems or because you're going through poverty, like for example. Depression is not, it's a deeper conversation than I'm feeling sad right now, or my husband beat me, or I don't have money. It's a lot more than that. But but because people, how will I say it?
Is it like a chemical imbalance as well?
There's chemical imbalance, quite all right. There's trauma. My personal, the perception I have in Nigeria is because a lot of people, while growing up, were traumatized one way or the other. And because we do not have what you call post-traumatic stress disorder, kind of, we don't talk about it. We don't debrief anybody. We don't like, okay, you went through something traumatic. If you're abroad, for example, and you were kidnapped, and you maybe 2-3 weeks of being with the kidnappers, and suddenly you're released. You have to see a psychiatrist. You have to see somebody to talk to and explain all the different things you went through. But in Nigeria, somebody can literally go through hell. And everybody's like, oh, hi, okay, you're back, okay. And then we just all move on. We just assume that since you got out of it, you're okay. So I believe that a lot of people have triggers. Yes. So
actually, I want to pick up on that post-traumatic disorder syndrome. One of the things that I was reading about and sort of in preparation for this interview was in Nigeria, one of the things that happens, and we all know people that either people have been hijacked and their cars have been stolen, either people have been robbed at home. These are real traumatic disorders. And so what happens is there's no follow-up, there's no social There's no social support except for just sort of saying, we thank God you're alive. But these things sometimes can lay dormant, and these traumas can be triggered by different things, but we don't know where those things are coming from. Why is it that after these type of traumatic events, how do we start to change the mentality that, look, if you've been hijacked, this is a traumatic event, you should try to get some counseling. It doesn't have to be 10 years of therapy, but some counseling to sort of work through what happened to you so that you can sort of move on. What are the conversations we need to be having to sort of get this type of conversation going?
I've started something that we call the mental health literacy campaign. The issue is that a lot of Nigerians are not literate about mental health. They don't understand it. They think, okay, three scenarios. Let's look at it like this. You go home for Christmas in the village. You see a madman. There's a particular, everybody calls him a madman. But there's a particular man in your village that maybe growing up all this while, you always saw him as the madman in the village. That becomes your example of mental illness. Everybody now, second of all, we have the stigma. Everybody looks at that madman, I don't want to have to deal. If despite the fact that people have other mental issues in their families, I don't want to be labeled as somebody who has that kind of issue, or we don't have such in our family. That's the second stigma. Third, a lot of people live in denial. So we have a lot of, when you have all these three, and there are even more, there are more things involved. But when we have these three things even there, how can we begin to even look at mental health as something we should discuss? Typical example, I even after writing my book, I think I just read recently that Betty Rabo, she was saying that after her book, some people even told her, you're not going to, you might not even get a political office after writing this book because you confessed that you had depression. Yeah, I was in a place where a few friends of mine were together. We're like, one was like, Ada, since you wrote this book, we're looking at you closely now in case you just snap. And we all laughed, hey. But it's like as if we shame people who come forward to say, I went through it, so I went through that. Michelle Obama just wrote her book. And she, some things she highlighted, really, it's the conversations that women need to hear about what she went through with IVF. We need to hear each other's stories. We shouldn't shame anybody for coming out to say, or even telling anybody, I don't feel okay. Like, one of the signs of suicide, when somebody goes on social media to say, or goes to his friend, or goes anywhere to say, I'm going to kill myself. I really feel like killing myself. And it's not in their normal behavior. They are not normally given to moods like that. It's enough to pay attention to. The man who killed himself, I don't know the other stories surrounding why he did what he did, whatever scandal was associated with that. But for the fact that he went on Twitter and said that he was thinking of killing himself, it was enough for everybody to just say, what is going on here? Somebody step in and say, guy, this thing is not up to that. We can't deal with this or something. But we don't think like that in Nigeria. We feel, I watched a video where somebody was saying things like, people are pretending. People are pretending. And my question is this. If somebody is going to go on for 2 years pretending that he or she has depression, does that not stand to say that that person has a mental health problem somewhere? It might not be that he has depression, but for the fact that he thinks he needs to pretend to get attention for 2 years, who wants to feel sad for, that amount of time?
Well, it's not just the Nigerian things. There's this poem that I read, Not Waving But Drowning, where the poor man was out in the sea and died, and he was the dead person was in the voice of the deceased, that I was not waving, I was drowning all my life. You all thought I was waving, I was actually drowning. So people have a way of, like you were saying, being dismissive about the signs.
Very dismissive about the signs that you see.
So how can the people who are battling with depression make the signs more obvious? How can they communicate to people and actually get help and seek help?
The people that, I won't even put it on the people who are going through it. I'll put it more on the people who are around them. Like, there are many ways we need to address this. Government inclusive. We need to begin to bring what you call, we need to create health education programs, age-appropriate health education programs, put in the curriculum of the secondary schools. If you are abroad now and you are in a secondary school and any teacher starts noticing that you're somewhat withdrawn, some things are just going on, automatically you are referred to a counselor. There's somebody on ground to talk to you. But in our schools, how many counselors are there, let alone how many schools are even really, have been properly have proper, what's that, the word for it? Are actually legal schools, let me just say it like that. Accredited, yes, that's the word, yes. You know, to even start to think that these kids are going through a lot of different things themselves. Primary school, children in primary school are going through depression. Teens are going through depression. Women in marriages.
I mean, okay, so let's start with children. I mean, what are some of the things parents need to look out for? Give us some of the symptoms that parents need to look out for in children.
If your child normally likes to play with his or her friends, enjoys playing or enjoys playing with a particular toy or enjoys, and suddenly enjoys talking to you, and suddenly stops, you know, just demeanor for kids is more of like demeanor, starts throwing some certain tantrums, unnecessary, easily gets upset, and then sometimes just wants to be on his or her own, doesn't want to play anymore with his or her friends. One of the very first sign. Doesn't do what he or she was doing before. You know your kids now, so you know the kind of games that they normally like to play, or the friend that they like the most, or maybe a particular uncle that they like, and suddenly they just don't want to be around those people anymore. They just don't want to do all those stuff anymore. Or they just say, Mommy, I feel. We don't really listen. Most of the time we're doing one thing or the other. Your child is saying, I want to talk about, you know, this person said something in school and it made me feel funny, and you don't want to have the conversation because honestly, maybe you're busy, you're tired. We need to be more empathetic. We need to listen also that this could be a cry for help, especially when it goes on continuously. Not that it's just a day and the child is just, you know, feeling bad and they're like, okay, by the next day, they're back to themselves, you know. But first day is like that, second day, third day. You just notice that the child is just not there. Let me just say it, just not there emotionally. Then you know that there's something wrong. You need to talk to that child, find out okay, is there something you like to tell me? Like I like to tell my kids that there's something you'd like to tell me. Is there something you think I should know? You know, and then allow them, you know, open up. Develop a kind of relationship that the child even wants to open up to you. Because some kids don't want to tell their parents anything. And they will end up telling some person, a teenager, for example, will end up telling, you know, the funny thing is that, like, my teenage daughter was telling me once that a friend of hers was telling her that she wasn't going to, she didn't see any reason why she should remain a virgin. She's going to just sleep around and do, I mean, after all, what is it? And I noticed that, I knew that cry, it wasn't just that she just wanted to, she was trying to numb some kind of pain, because in some of these homes, some marriages are like in shambles. And these kids are looking at all these things. And they are looking for a way to deal with their own struggles with growing up, then having to like see certain things going on, you know. So these kids, they really need somebody to talk to, and it really behoves the parents sometimes that, look, your life is not just tied to you. It's not just all about you. You've brought some kids into the world. You need to make sure that they're okay. As much as you're struggling with whatever it is you're struggling with, you need to still look at them. You need to still, you know, observe them.
It's been in the news a lot recently in the UK and the US that parents are really taking social media giants to task, like Facebook, Instagram, and they're blaming the social media platforms for the spike in child and teen suicide because they're images that glamorize, like what you were saying about how people will be inspired by things they see on social media. How can parents counteract these outside influences?
You have to start from within, start from home, start to talk to your children about the realities of social media. We cannot separate, as wonderful as social media is, we cannot separate it from the effect it's having on these young people. When we were growing up, there wasn't any social media. So you had to go outside and work out your issues, maybe punch one or two people to just get, you know, something, you know. But these kids now, they are more in danger than any other generation that we've seen, because they have these phones. Then there are also these suicide sites. That I mean, as when I first learnt of it, I totally like freaked out that there were suicide sites you can go to ask about how you can kill yourself, yes, and they will tell you, yes, you know, in detail. So you can imagine you have this teenager at home who's not talking to you, just like a teenager that can carry a gun and go to his class and shoot all his schoolmates because he feels people hate him or he's being bullied or something. We really need to begin to talk to these children, because it starts from there. We need to build the right self-esteem within them. Let them understand what social media is. Most of the people who post pictures on social media, these things are not really real. Like, typical example, the whole entrepreneur Nigerians, with the way we are, we like to, when pure water was, when pure water business first came out, Everybody saw that it was successful, so everybody started doing pure water business. Now, we have the entrepreneur wave. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Nobody wants to work for anybody else. And every entrepreneur is basically telling the younger generation, you too can be an entrepreneur. Without doing any work, you can hit, you can make money, you can be the best. And these things are not really true. You actually have to build a business ground up. You actually have to. So to push their businesses, they're going to post pictures of success. You get? And these kids are going to see this success. I was speaking to 3 teenage boys, and they were telling me they wanted to start their own radio show, and they wanted tips because I have a radio show and all that. So, and all they kept on saying was that the money, we're going to make money. Guys, we haven't even talked about what exactly are you guys putting online. Are you even ready for this? As in, it starts from the beginning. You leave the money aspect.
So basically, you're saying that social media has the ability to create a false reality that some people
yes.
Believe is adopted
it's
as
real,
real.
yes.
And therefore, that also is something that parents have to be very mindful of.
Yes. Someone actually said they were looking at one celebrity on social media, and she was feeling depressed. That is, the lady who was looking at the celebrity was like, she must be a failure because this person is doing so well. I mean, how many heads does this person have? But we all have our struggles. We all have the issues that we deal with, I think there should be a balance in some of these messages, especially with people who are even coaches. You need to balance these messages. You need to let people know that, look, I teach people that depression is not something you can deal with in one day. If you're suffering from depression, you're going through depression, it can be, nobody should tell you that it's something that you can get over in one day. It's a process. It's just like, it's a lifestyle change. There's certain things you have to cut off. There's certain things you have to start to imbibe. Certain mentalities you have to begin to assimilate. You have to even uproot all the other. It will take some time. Different things that you've gone through. Some lady said on social media recently that men are depressed because their wives are doing well and they can't take it. So I'm like, okay. First of all, there's no statistical, the data to corroborate that, because more women are depressed than men, that according to statistics. Then 2, yes, a man can get depressed because maybe his wife is doing better than him. But it's also, I won't call it a cause. I won't call it like a global cause. I'll call it more of a trigger. It could be that maybe while you see some guys, maybe their mothers were always doing well and their fathers never did well. And suddenly they're in a marriage and their wife is doing so well and they are struggling. It's going to erupt so many negative emotions in the man. And the personality type also has to do with depression. If his personality is the type that he's going to be so, withdrawn, so, he might just think of like this, like he would have gone so far in suicidal thoughts and thinking that this life is not worth living and probably kill himself. Or now take out all his frustration on his spouse, abuse, emotional, physical, whatever. Everybody has different ways of expressing their frustrations, so to speak, So, but these are the things that we're talking about. We cannot take out triggers from the conversation of depression.
So, okay, we can't take out triggers, but how can we build coping mechanisms, coping skills? What are the things that can counteract those triggers?
Now, exercise is one very strong aspect that can help. But the thing is, before you can apply a coping mechanism, you have to understand that it is a coping mechanism. It has the ability to help you cope. If you don't understand what it is, that's what's happening with people. A lot of people are doing exercise and they don't know that it's not just helping your physical, fat, helping you deal with fat, but it's helping you deal with your emotions. Notice when you've run 5 miles, for example, or 5 kilometers, you feel on top of the world. That's part of, it's supposed to help you, it's supposed to begin to breed positive thoughts in you, to make you feel that you can take over the world, you can do this, you can face life, you can be who you want to be, Then there's certain foods that help fight these depression feelings. There's music.
What type of food?
With turkey is one of them. Milk is one of them. That's a healthy milk anyway. Carrots is one of them. It's about, so you can't still live an unhealthy lifestyle and beat depression. You can't take away food, exercise. You can't take away support, emotional support, or positive, like some people like to listen to messages. I like to listen to people like T.D. Jakes, Joyce Meyer. I want to hear something positive.
And uplifting, inspirational
Yes, you need to hear stuff like that, because the more negative things you hear, the more you're going to believe that those things are actually true. If somebody keeps on telling you, if Tundun, I keep telling you every day that you are not going to amount to anything. You are not going to, and I'm so close to you. As I'm literally living in the house with you, I'm telling you, you are not going to amount. I'm telling you, it won't take long before you really start believing that you are really, whatever you're doing is just a sham. You start to imbibe these things, you know. So what are you listening to? That's the question I'll even ask.
Well, your teachings have a strong spiritual undercurrent. I mean, you just mentioned 2 preachers. Is this essential for dealing with depression? And what happens to perhaps atheists? How do they cope?
I think, I won't say, okay, preachers. You need to be listening to positive stuff. Even if you're an atheist, even you can't surround even if it's secular, you can't surround yourself with people telling you that you can't beat this depression or you are constantly going to be a failure. You know, you need to listen to positive. The human mind, the human spirit, the human body was made to like feel like, you know, going forward. Okay, look at your feet. Your feet point forward. So everything about you, your eyes, everything is pointing forward. The only thing pointing backwards is your butt, which is, you know, which is for removing stuff. So you're meant to be like, look at you as a person. You're meant to be moving forward. People cannot, like for me, I can't, the things that make me happy, prayer, praise, time spent with God, time spent doing things I love. You know, those are things that inspire me. I don't know what inspires
So those are
you.
Coping mechanisms
for me. Yeah.
But everyone has to come up with
everybody has to come up with your own
But these
coping
are
mechanisms.
guides. These are guides that you can. So go and find positive things to listen to. They could be motivation. They could be preachers. These are things that you can put on your playlist.
Everything around you, as in make sure that everything around you, yes.
You were saying something about music. I don't want you to lose these coping mechanisms. You were also saying something about music.
Yes, positive music. Music you enjoy. Music you love. That makes you feel happy. Because you go to a party and they're playing music. Because you want to go to a party and dance because the music makes you feel happy. So there's something, just even look at music. There's some songs
exercise, diet, you said positive messaging, music. Are there any other activities that people can engage in when they're in that place where they feel like the world is closing in on them or their emotions are just overpowering?
There's this very new, I won't call it new, but we've found out there's something we call autogenic training. It's called mantras, basically mantras. Like there's this common mantra in Christendom where we say, this too shall pass. Now, having your own mantra, the essence of a mantra, when I say something like this too shall pass, it gives me, it reaffirms in me that whatever is happening right now is not permanent, right? Whatever negative thing is happening right now should not dictate the rest of my life.
And do you say that over and over again?
As in, it has to be something that you're like chanting to yourself. As in, they've had a training that, or rather, they've had this, as in scientists have discovered that it actually works.
So you just say this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass.
No, I don't know how to.
Because I mean, people are watching it. People always want to understand. And one thing that happens is
one of the key things to dealing with depression is understanding what it is. It comes upon you like a wave, as if nothing else is nothing positive is ever going to happen in your life. This is the end. Now think about it psychologically. Does that make sense? As in, nothing ever good is going to happen. I will never amount to anything. How, as a human being, even as it's irrational.
So you have to catch that thought as it comes and analyze it and break it down into nothing. Basically.
Yes, exactly. You have to break it down into nothing. It does not mean, even if you were raped today, and the perpetrator told you that I have taken this from you and you can never be anything in this life. Who has the right to tell you that?
It's like what you said, if you lived with me and you were telling me negative things, I would start to believe it. So if you tell yourself positive things, you start to believe it. And aside from even starting to believe it, you begin to even go and find out, as in, it's actually true, because if I think I can do something, some of the greatest people in the world who've ever achieved anything, find out how they achieved what they achieved, because they believed. They began to believe, despite the negatives are all around them, they began to believe that, yes, they were made for something. Purpose is another very strong point of dealing with depression. But the thing is that that's why a lot of people who are successful don't deal with depression, because they don't even understand it. They don't even understand that, okay, while I'm here doing what I love, it's actually a weapon in itself.
I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I'm good at. I should feel, I should feel happy with what I've accomplished so far with my life. I should feel positive and think of the next best thing I can do. Not just stop at that point. This is all that is. Oprah keeps on going further, looking for something, looking for somebody to do a good deed to. Okay, good deeds. How do good deeds make you feel? How many people want to do good deeds? You get everybody's thinking, oh, me. But a good deed is actually one of doing something good for somebody that you might not even get the benefit from, but you've helped somebody get through something. So these are all different coping mechanisms. Going out with my friends, thinking positive, thinking of what I can do to better somebody else's life. What am I doing with my life? Okay, right now I might have a job that I don't necessarily love, or I'm just like, just to get by. But what do I want to do eventually with the rest of my life? I begin to now start to study about such things. Maybe I love talking. Okay, how can I become a speaker? What things that can lead to that? Unlearn the stuff that the wrong things you've learned. Relearn stuff.
Unlearn the negative messaging.
Unlearn the negative messaging.
Unlearn the negative feedback you give yourself and replace that with
Some people grew up in
positivity.
really abusive homes where their fathers were useless, their mothers were worse. They were, and for those kind of people to even come out and succeed, if you ask them, they will tell you once in a while that the thoughts of you're going to be you're a loser at some point in time that is going to flash before them. And at that point, you take the decision. Look, I'm not a loser. I know who I am. I know I'm more than whatever they think I am. You have to talk to yourself. You can't remove that part. That's what even I tell some patients. As much as I tell you that you can make it, you have to start to believe that you can make it. If you don't believe that you can make it, even if you take an antidepressant now, it's still not going to. It's just maybe it's going to make it easier for you to feel a little better.
When should people seek help, though? Like, so you've done these things, you felt this coping, you have these coping mechanisms, you've used them, you've worked on them. This feeling is not going away. When do you know it's time to seek help?
Then you really need to now go and see a psychiatrist or a mental health professional that can diagnose and easily refer you to somebody else. Because at that point, it could be that the chemical imbalance in the brain is beyond what you can handle. So you might need some antidepressants or need some drugs to build that up, to give you the strength to do what you need to do. Another thing also that happens is that you have to constantly, someone I spoke to recently who said the last prescription they had was 2015 and they were still taking it, but they weren't getting any better. This is 2019. You need to get you need to get a reassessment. You need to find out, you need to even evaluate, even while you're getting help. Find out, is it working? Ask yourself, am I feeling better? Am I feeling more positive?
As you would with a physical ailment. You wouldn't just continue.
Yes, it's as important. That's what we're trying to say. It's as important as cancer. It's as important as a headache. It's as important as malaria. It's now, I read somewhere that there are about 600 people. At first, I think we had the statistics of 300 million people with depression. Now, I saw something someone wrote 600.
The World Bank said 22% of Nigerians are suffering
depressed.
from some level of depression.
I will tell you that even those figures are not accurate. Even those figures are not accurate. Because
22%?
No, I even feel, that's what I'm saying, I even feel it's more than that. We don't even, there's still people that don't tell you they're depressed. They just keep on going. They won't even, I feel those figures, and I spoke to one of my psychiatrist friends in London who had been in Nigeria for a while, and just like, those figures are not even accurate, because how many, you know how many we are? You know how, okay, where was it?
We don't really have a real sense.
So what are the therapies that are available in Nigeria if somebody decides to seek professional help?
The therapies right now, just try and find, okay, now I have to talk about this before I even get to that. The psychiatrists we have presently, we don't have enough. In terms of ratio, it's a very low ratio.
Have one of those,
yes. So we have one of the lowest. But even the ones we have need to dust up their books as well, and not just, because I've heard people say they've gone to a psychiatrist, they've gone in to see a psychiatrist, and the person kind of makes them feel, you're too pretty to be depressed. For the love of God, why should somebody say that to a patient? Or, you too, you're depressed. as if we are like...
Someone said to me that they had, either they had said something about being depressed or something, and the person said, is it every Oyibo disease you must have?
Oh, who says these things?
It's like you have come again with your Oyibo disease. So.
It's almost like, okay, a woman in labor, and she rushes into hospital, and the nurses are already like, when you start making snide comments when she's in labor. Yeah. You're meant to be, it shouldn't just be a job, for example. First of all, go and even dust up your... Doctors are meant to be constantly reading journals. Let's all come into the 21st century. We can't ignore depression anymore. We can't ignore mental health. In Nigeria, as we stand, we can't. Even if we could ignore it before, now we have IDP camps. We have people being raped in these camps. We have people having so much trauma right before our eyes. Children are in schools, they are being bullied. Some of these kids are even struggling with, they don't understand their gender. They are dealing with so many things at the same time. I mean, when you were growing up, how many things did you have to deal with growing up? You're just like, okay, maybe the biggest problem we had was, when I get to school, am I going I didn't do my homework or something. But some of these kids are dealing with, they analyze things more than we ever did at our age. So they're dealing with so many feelings. So we can't ignore it. Government can't ignore it anymore. We can't ignore it anymore. In the schools, we have to have age-appropriate programs in place. I mean, I'm already working on a book for teens. Oh, depression for teens, yes. We have to break it down to, like the way we broke down, we all attacked child sexual abuse. Like even a 2-year-old will tell you, don't touch me there. As in it went down to the grassroots, churches are talking about it, everybody's talking about it, nobody needs to touch you, this is your private, and all that. We need to break it down to that point, that even the 2-year-old knows that once I start feeling this way, or something has happened and I feel I need to talk to someone, I feel I need to talk to somebody. Mommy, I don't really feel okay, I think I need to talk to you. We need to break it down.
It's always such a pleasure to have you in the house, and you're so passionate and your advocacy when it comes to mental health illness. Thank you so much for being here.